applications development management. Thank you all for joining in. To keep pace in a business world, there's an urgent requirement to transform heritage portfolios to flexible modular applications that can improve time to market for new services. There's a need to manage diverse and complex applications at lower cost and enable rapid response to requests for new functionality and requirements. By developing a robust next-gen ADM, enterprises can perform better and shift to focus more on unleashing digital capabilities as time goes on. This is indeed the best way for customers to help them grow revenue, increase speed to market, overcome talent deficits, and meet their financial priorities. To throw more light on next-gen ADM, it's my pleasure to invite today's speaker, Rupal Pandya, who is a garage coach and app development management and innovation expert at IBM India. Welcome, Rupal, and thank you for joining us today. Before I hand it over to her, request you all to please be present till the end of the webinar and get your questions ready for the Q&A session, which we will be taking towards the end. Also, do visit the webinar website for detailed terms and conditions. With that, over to you, Rupal.
Hey, thanks, Krishna, and truly much appreciated. Hey, thanks all the members who have joined the webinar. Truly appreciate it as well. So, and thanks for the nice introduction, Krishna, as well. So, folks, in my opinion, ADM is the most vital and most demanding function for any organization. Because if we do not keep the lights on or if something goes wrong, the business practically stops. Okay, and the other thing is, so the pressure is that you have to keep the lights on. Plus, it has to be done in an extremely optimized cost. Obviously, because every organization in today's world is moving towards, digital. They want to be the market leader, so on and so forth. So they want to spend majority of the money in digitization. But at the same time, they have to ensure that their current applications are stable. They are continuing. There is less severity one, and there is less disruptions. There are less and less nights that we are awake to solve the problems. So I truly believe that ADM is one of the most important functions for any organization, and a function which requires a lot of effort. There are a lot of pressures in it. To add on to it, I think these digital born companies, they have completely disrupted the standards. So, for example, resilience. Netflix is giving 100% resilience, so on and so forth. So that's adding more and more pressure on we incumbents, because we are expected to perform
It's 3 o'clock.
Beyond what is happening today, and to completely be in the path of disruption. Because if we are not there, then we are no longer the market leaders. So there's a lot of pressure on moving towards digital, moving towards disruptive innovation, and be the market leader. Okay. In fact, our survey shows that 72% of the customers believe that disruption, innovation is the way forward. But it is only 14% that believe that they are ready for this disruption. I'll come to this a little bit later, but let me speak a little bit about what are various customers talking today. So they are talking about modernizing the information technology. They are talking about zero downtime. They are talking about 100% automation. They are talking about integrating AD and AM. They are talking about scaling the product environment very easily with less investment and less disruption. They are talking about DevOps, and they are talking about automated release and deployment. And in fact, end-to-end automation is what they are talking about. The reason they are doing this is because there are these born digital companies that are really setting the new standards for speed, efficiency, and resilience. So take, for example, Amazon. Okay, Amazon has the ability to deploy every 12 seconds. Imagine that, deployment every 12 seconds. And it's actually very important for a company like Amazon to be able to deploy so fast, because they are dependent, their sales are dependent on the moods of the customers. The sales are dependent on seasonal changes. Their sales are dependent on the environmental changes, the political changes that are happening on a day-to-day basis. So to be able to capture this market, they have to be able to deploy very fast, and they have to make the IT compatible to the user experience that the users are expecting at that point of time. Or for that matter, Netflix, if you see, they say that they are 100% available. Their resilience is beyond compare. So these companies are, setting up these new standards, and we IBM call these new standards as the new normal, because this new normal is actually changing the way information technologies is seen today. And what we advise to our clients is that if you want to be upbeat with these changes, and if you want to be the market leader, and if you want to be prepared for these changes that are happening by the new digital companies, we have to be able to make the changes. We have to get the ability of a startup, but at the same time have the stability of a large enterprise to be able to scale these changes. How do you do all of this? You do all of this by performing in 3 performance zones. So basically, to compete in this new normal, every organization must consider the 3 performance zone is IBM's point of view of the next generation ADM. The 3 performance zones are necessarily optimizing the core, unlocking the legacy, and unleashing the digital. I'll explain all these 3 zones in a bit, but let me explain you, these 3 zones are impacting the way we manage people, the way we manage processes, and the way we manage technology. There is a huge paradigm shift in all these 3 areas. From a people perspective, essentially, the traditional model is that you will have specialized skills of testers, you will have specialized skills of architects, you will have specialized skills of developers, strategists, so on and so forth. The new trend is, just give me a second, I think I need to mute my email. Please pardon me for this disruption. Okay, so basically, from a people perspective, the new trend has to be that it has to be a squad-based delivery, which means you will have people who have T-shaped skills. The T-shaped skills means you will have in-depth knowledge in one particular technology or one particular skill area, but you will have expertise in other skill areas as well. Now, how this helps is that, if you have people with in-depth knowledge in one area and, some kind of information in other areas, the collaboration between the teams is very effective and very efficient. And people are able to collaborate extremely highly because they're able to understand each other very easily. That's number 1. And number 2, let's say there is a problem and the second person is not available. This one individual, because of his breadth of information and depth in a particular area, he will be able to solve the problem end to end. And it will no longer be a situation, oh, I cannot resolve this problem because I do not have the skill and I have to depend on somebody else. Okay, so that's why we propagate a concept of T-shaped skills, and this comes as a part of a garage delivery model, which is very specific to IBM. And I do take webinars on garage delivery because I'm a garage expert as well. If you're interested, I can hold this for you as well. You can, in fact, inform the Economic Times group, and we'll do the needful. But essentially, the idea is that you have a squad-based delivery where people are able to speak, interact with each other, and people are capable of resolving a problem end-to-end by themselves. That's number 1. From a process perspective, we have to be agile. We have to bring in extreme automation. That means any repetitive task, any task which we know follow a certain procedure, they should be automated to the maximum extent possible. What this does is, this frees the people from doing mundane repetitive tasks and will channelize them towards more important tasks which will help you improve the user experience. That is, doing application delivery using unleashing the digital. And I'll get to that shortly. Okay. And the third item is technology. More and more user experience is extremely important as we move forward through the years. And this is the year of millennia who have very less retention they have very less attention span, number 1. And number 2, there are too many people, they have too many demands, there are too many products in the market, so they have too many choices. So the market is it's actually a micro market where, the segments are extremely small. And hence it's important that you provide the best user experience possible. In fact, you have to bring in innovation over a short period of time, because if you don't continue to change, if you don't continue to bring innovation, then the users will have a very low attention span and the stickiness will be low and they will move out. Hence, we say that you have to move towards the cloud-based ecosystem. You have to move towards microservices, containerization, because all of this, at the end of the day, helps you to provide a world-class user experience. So this is a paradigm shift which is very, very important. That is people, process, and technology. If you have to perform in the three performance zones, which is optimizing the core, unlocking the legacy, and unleashing the digital. Now let's get to a little bit of optimizing the core. Okay, optimizing the core essentially is wherever you have traditional application development, and you have monolithic applications where you cannot change them, you have to live with them. So what we suggest for these such applications you do is you bring in the new modern tools and methods. So you really do not change your application, but you bring in the modern tools and methods and approaches to make it as more efficient as possible. Now, how do you do that? Very simple. So, for example, you automate your release and deployment. Your monolithic application stays as is, but because you're automating your release and deployment, you're actually ensuring that to that extent, there is automation which has been brought in, and it will improve the time to market. Okay, or you integrate your end-to-end SDLC using DevOps. So, for example, you have your requirements traceability that gets converted into testing, and then testing is automated because you have automation scripts associated to it, and it gets linked to the release and deployment. So, with a click of a button, you are actually the guy, whoever is doing the development, does all the necessary development, clicks on a button, automatic regression testing is taking place. And if everything is in place, automatic deployment takes place. So by the time he's back in the morning, everything is set. His application is released into the system in case there is no error. If there is an error, it goes and gets updated in Jira or whichever tracking tool that you have with the severity level. And the support staff, which is supposed to look at the severity level, is already on the job. For example, if it is a severity 1, he's already on the job at night. So you're really not disrupting anything. Everything is automated and things will automatically take place with much lesser stress. Similarly, you bring in robotic process automation and you bring in the concepts of self-heal, for example, okay, or event-based automation, or cognitive-based automation. What this does is, so I'll take a very simple example. So let's take an example of a self-heal, right? Now, that there is a application, there's a bad job it's a very simple example. There's a bad job that has to run at night. It takes 2 hours to run. If it is running good, it takes 5 hours to run if there is a problem. Now you put a robotic process in place that will go and check whether this job is running or is it taking more time to run. The moment it realizes it is taking more time to run, we write in certain sub RPAs which will look into the reasons why it is running low. Maybe the table space is getting towards, it's filling up and getting towards completion, and that's why it's not getting enough space and it's running slow. So RPA will automatically go clear the table space and rerun the job. So that is called self-heal, wherein RPA is automatic robot. Basically, the robot is understanding the issue and is trying to fix the problem. Okay. So if you do this, what happens is you will realize that you are actually you are replacing actual human beings with these digital workforce, okay? And majority of your repetitive tasks or tasks which can be done by themselves are getting done through these digital workforce, and it will help you improve the productivity to beyond 50 to 70%. In fact, for one of my customers, I have actually witnessed a productivity of 70% plus, wherein they brought in end-to-end automation right from the moment a ticket is logged in, either through email or through a ticketing tool. So we have put in something called an unstructured data analysis, and this robot looks into the email, figures out what the issue is, immediately creates a ticket. The moment ticket is created, if it is associated to an RPA, the RPA runs on its own and tries to fix the problem. If the problem is not fixed, only then the human being is called, and then human being comes in and he solves the problem. So we have done this, and we have witnessed this benefit. See what it does for you. in a current scenario or in an earlier scenario, a moment there is a severity, you have a human being, you have a person getting up, opening his laptop, already half demotivated because he's getting up at night and trying to look at the problem, trying to resolve the problem. Okay, you have preempted these issues and you have actually put robots in place. Now these robots are doing the job for you. How this helps? Number one, because it is a robot, you're preempting the problem and it is fixing the problem. So your time to resolution is lesser, number one. Number two, the number of errors is less. The number of errors is less because when a robot is doing it, it is doing based on a fixed steps that it is supposed to follow. So obviously the error count will also come down. Okay. Number three, user experience is very high because the moment a ticket has been logged in, a moment an issue has been logged in, RPA is on its job immediately. He doesn't need to sleep. The moment a job has been logged in, RPA is triggered and it fixes the problem. You're not waiting for a human being to solve the problem. So user experience is extremely high. And that's how, optimizing the core helps you bring in higher user experience. Not only that, it also helps you cut the cost and improve the efficiency. I explained to you how it helps you to improve the efficiency. It helps you cut the cost because you're not applying a human being to do the job. So the cost that you are incurring on a day-to-day basis on a human being is actually reduced, and RPA is doing their job. And the cost of an RPA actually within 5 years, within a year or so, you will actually, within 5 years, you break even and then you go beyond as far as productivity is concerned. Okay. So that's optimizing the code. Again, I'll tell you, it's basically for monolithic architectures where you do not want to change your application. You just want to bring in productivity by adding, by using new methods and new tools like RPA, Agile, etc. Okay, DevOps, right? The second one is unlocking the legacy. This zone speaks about where you are in a hard-pressed need for bringing in a high user experience because your business is getting impacted since and you don't have the right systems in place. Your business is getting impacted. Users find it very slow to get the changes put in place. So you are under a lot of pressure to give a very high user experience, but you do not have that kind of investment to be able to do it, or you do not have the time to be able to do it. In such a situation, we suggest that you go with the unlock legacy, wherein you really do not change your legacy application. You actually create a wrapper around your legacy application so that you are able to give better user experience. So I'll take an example. American Airlines, okay, they were facing this. So whenever there is a hurricane or whenever there was a call of the nature, there could, floods, etc. There would be a lot of chaos because the cancellations airline cancellations would increase. Okay, and the monsoon season was approaching. We did not have much time. So and we were in a lot of pressure to give an application to the end user so that the experience of cancellation and looking for a new flight is, reduced for the end user. That's what we were trying to do. We were trying to give a lot of relief to the end user in case of cancellation. Okay. What we did was we worked along with them, and in fact, we did this in a garage delivery method. We worked along with the customers. We tried to understand the touch points which caused a lot of stress to the end customer whenever there would be cancellations and heavy cancellations because of weather conditions, etc. Okay. And then we designed an application which would allow the end users to define their own path or define their own flight path in case a cancellation occurs. They no longer had to wait for the end agents to tell them which alternatives on flight, etc. They could look at the alternatives by themselves on their mobile phone, and they could decide which next station to land to or which next flight to take to. Okay. Now, how did we do this? We essentially created a wrapper around the existing legacy application using microservices. Essentially, we build a duplicate application using containerization and microservices, which was an end touch point to the end user. We did this in a record time of actually 3 months, and this is just one of the functionality I'm talking about. There were other functionality that also we built in, wherein we gave the pilots an access to the landing stations wherein a hurricane has been hit, and he could change the flight path beforehand. Okay, so these are some of the facilities we gave to the end users and the pilots, and it actually helped us cut down on the end user stress to a great extent. In fact, the moment we had delivered the solution and brought it up to scale, and hurricane had hit America, and then this application was tested live, and the amount of positive goodwill that we created for the customers was humongous. Okay, so this is unlocking this legacy. What it brings for us is 40% time to market, faster time to market. So the advantage of such kind of unlocking the legacy zone is that you are improving the time to market, number one, and number two, you are using less time to build and deploy the product. Okay, so that's in our experience, approximately 60% less build time and deployment time is required if you go towards the unlocking the legacy zone. The third zone is unleashing the digital. This is unleashing the digital is essentially about, when you really want to move to the next level of innovation. Maybe you have some disruptive thought in your mind. You may not even have the disruptive thought, but you have a vision which you want to fulfill. Okay, and you want to move completely towards digitization, digital reinvention, or completely do a completely different user experience. In such situation, you are talking about completely revamping your IT application and move towards digital. And this is done. Done in the unleashing the digital zone, where we sit along with you. We do it in a garage. IDM recommends that you do it in a garage delivery methodology, and I will touch upon the garage delivery shortly as we move further. But typically here you are completely revamping your legacy applications. You might want to sunset a lot of applications. You might want to actually move a lot of applications to cloud. You might want to improve the user experience of the front-end application, and you might want to completely scrap the current architecture, bring in the cloud-based architecture, make modifications to your market-facing application, and you can do this in the unleashing the digital zone. Okay, and this will bring in basically how it helps us. It improves the user experiences. 50% faster time to market, obviously, because you are much connected to the customer. You have cognitive in place so that you are able to understand what the customer is looking for. You have the ability to modify your application at a very fast rate through the architecture that you have brought in. Okay, and as you actually move further in these three zones, what you will realize is more and more applications are actually moving towards unlocking the legacy and then slowly moving towards unleashing the digital. So you are becoming more and more efficient as you move forward. In fact, when you prepare your future vision for information technology, you should have a vision wherein for all the legacy applications, you try to optimize the core and slowly move towards unlocking the legacy and unleashing the digital and be completely digitized. Okay? Now, there is a possibility that you will never be able to reduce the optimize the core. There will be some applications which will still be in optimizing the core area, because by the nature of the applications, they are very huge. You cannot touch them. Those are legacies which you have to continue. You cannot do without them, but you have to live with them. So there will be some amount of legacy applications which will be there, and to them you can add the max, maybe bring in some automation to be able to continue with them. But there will be a whole lot of applications which will allow you to do, move towards digitization, unlocking the legacy, and unleashing the digital. Now, how do you go about doing all of this? So what we propagate is that whenever you're trying to define your IT vision, the first important thing that you need to do is do a portfolio analysis. Okay, have an understanding of what are the applications which should be in optimizing the core, which should be in unlocking the legacy, and which should be in the zone of unleashing the digital. Then once you have done that, you need to define, what exact changes that you want to do in unlocking and unleashing. And IBM, myself or my team members can come in, help you do this analysis. It's almost a 3 weeks analysis where we can basically help you understand the portfolio, determine the best fit for the application, assess the capability, and then develop the roadmaps for you. Okay. Now, that has ADM strategy. I think I have brought in 3 important aspects. One is about automation, the second is about testing, and the third one is about the garage delivery. I think these 3 things are extremely important and imperative when you are heading towards the next gen ADM, which is basically in the 3 performance zone, which is unlocking, optimizing the core, unlocking the legacy, and unleashing the digital. The first consideration is convergence of AM and AD. This you can do through automation. There are some 6 levers of automation and shifting left. The shift left concept is all about, solving the problem upfront and through automation and moving less and less towards the human effort. Okay. So the 6 levers are basically self-heal. I think I spoke about that already for you. Self-service. So give tools and methods to the existing IT team of your organization so that they are able to solve the problem by themselves. And every problem is not ticketed so that, they don't have to wait for the IT support team to be able to solve the problem. The person who has a problem should be able to resolve it by themselves. See, the amount of time that it takes for the ticket to get ticketed and then resolved should be cut down. And that's what the shift left is all about. Okay. Automated resolution, we spoke about that using RPAs. Event correlation, understand that tomorrow you are trying to maybe implement something, understand the effect of it and understand, let's say the issue occurs, what is the impact on the end-to-end application, and try to put RPAs in place upfront. We have, machine learning and intelligent IT, which is able to apply heuristics to see the impact of an issue coming in and accordingly help the application team to put in RPAs in the right places. Predictive incident management, use of cognitive methods to predict the issues that could occur and put effective resolutions in place. Cognitive problem management, do the RCAs, look at the tickets, look at the pattern of the tickets and try to implement resolution upfront. Do preventive maintenance basically. Now, when you do this, what happens is your application management effort reduces. Your application management effort is taken over by the digital workforce. And your human beings, your intelligent people are actually freed to do a lot of application development. That means they can move out of optimizing the core and they can focus on how to shift your applications to more and more towards unlocking the legacy and unleashing the digital. We have done similar engagements for our customers, and British Petroleum, for example, has seen more than 50% of reduction in service desk calls, greater than 20K user interactions per month, okay, and greater than 33% reduction in application tickets, for example, for MERS, and 17% run cost reduction. For one of my customers, I have done a 60% reduction in their L1 tickets just by applying Watson automation on unstructured data as well as automated ticket resolution. The second important aspect which I really wanted to touch upon is the testing. Testing, I believe, in the India market is not given too much of importance. And typically we apply, low level or less experienced individual to sit and do mass testing. In my opinion, that is absolutely the wrong method for testing. It's extremely important that we test less but have maximum coverage, number one. And number two, we must bring in automation in testing, reduce the manual effort. And number three, we must do a defect analytics on testing. I think in the India market, this is not really neglected field. And it is my endeavor to see that I educate my customers on this aspect. Because when you have less number of test cases with maximum functional coverage, you are ensuring that your applications are robust. And I'll explain you with an example. What the customers do today typically is they will put more and more people and they will tell them to go on and do some, just go on and, without any scientific understanding, they would just, or applying any scientific model, they would just want them to go on and test, every case. But that's not the right thing to do. So for example, if you look at this data here, look at the first case, okay? Make a payment. Number of test cases are actually 33, okay? But the coverage percentage is only 23. This coverage percentage is of the application coverage, functionality coverage. Okay? And there are approximately 12 redundant test cases. So we have done this analysis, okay? And what we have realized that although the number of test cases are higher, but the coverage is only 23. Now, if you apply a particular behavioral model, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but if you apply a behavioral model, we can say within 29 test cases, you are actually able to cover 100% of the functional requirement. Now you weigh it. 33 test cases with only 23 coverage, 29 test cases with 100% coverage. Which is better? Obviously, the second one. Okay. Similarly, look at this case of managed pay. Test cases are 58, coverage is 63, but there are 11 redundant test cases here. What we are saying, you really do not need 58 test cases. You can have 32 test cases to 100% coverage. So you have 58 test cases giving you 63% coverage, which is a good coverage. But I'm telling you, with only 32 test cases, you can have 100% functional coverage. See, the importance in testing is that you do 100% functional coverage. Okay. More number of test cases do not matter. It can choose the test cases which will give you 100% coverage. That's the whole idea. Okay. And through the IBM Ignite method, we deliver 100% coverage with less number of test cases using our trademark CTD, that is computational test design methodology, and CTD tools. That's number one. Number two, automate your test cases. Again, in the Ignite platform, we are able to automate better. I'll get to that shortly. And the third thing is do an analytics of your tickets. Do an analytics of your test cases and the errors, test errors. I'm sorry, do an analytics of your test errors, because this will actually tell you where is the error getting injected. Is it getting injected in the requirements phase? Is it getting injected in the design phase? Is it getting injected while you're doing your integration? Once you know that, in your SDLC, you can go ahead and fix that thing which is causing more and more errors to seep in. Okay? Now, from an IBM perspective, we have this tool, something called as an Ignite Quality Platform, which is an integrated end-to-end tool, and it provides a total test quality from a perspective of optimize, automate, and analyze. So optimize is basically effort saved, wherein we use a concept of BDD, which is behavioral based testing, which means you are defining your test cases, or you're defining test models. Actually, we no longer define cases, we define test models. And these models are based on the way an end user is going to use the application. Now, once you have defined it based on the way end user is using the application, automatically you are increasing your functional coverage. And we do this not only for UAT, we do this for integration testing as well. Okay? Now, once this model is defined, you submit it to the CTD, which will optimize on these models. And then once optimized model is ready, we use Jerkin test cases to define the test cases and then execute it using Selenium. Okay? And then we also have a Watson-based tool, something which will do your defect analytics. It will do the classification of the defects. It will do the analytics, and it will tell you the results. So then you can improvise on your SDLC to have less and less error in the future. The third concept which I wanted to really bring in was the garage delivery method. Now, I'll just refresh you once again on the three zones, right? I spoke about the optimize the core, unlocking the legacy, and unleashing the digital. DevOps, automation, Ignite, RPAs, etc. will help you with optimize the core, will help you with unlocking the legacy. Okay? But then you go to unleashing the digital, there you are looking at new ways of working, where you are looking to probably define a new normal for yourself. You're trying to do a complete disruptive innovation. Garage methods comes into picture. Okay, and the garage method is all about essentially co-creating, co-executing, and cooperating. That means the end customer, it's actually a cultural change wherein we work the end customers, the IT team, the business team, and your SMEs work together to first define the vision and brainstorm on basically what is it that you're trying to create. In other terms, coming up with various innovative ideas. And remember, we spoke about the squad delivery model, wherein we have a T-shaped structure where people have breadth of knowledge, so the interaction is very heavy, but they are in-depth in a particular area, so the interaction is very high. And once this gets going, a culture gets created, you will see that your departments are talking so much with each other, and this culture of interacting cohesively will lead you to come up with a lot of out-of-box ideas. We have witnessed, more than 100 ideas that generally come up. And then these ideas have to be brainstormed. We have to do a hypothesis testing. We have to test this in the market and see which idea is people are more receptive. I mean, who your end customers are which of these ideas they are more receptive to. Pick 2 to 3 ideas where your end customers are really receptive to. Move to the co-execute phase, which means you define your MVP. Again, we will have a T-shaped structure where we'll have a squad, which will be a combination of your strategists, your SMEs, your business people, your end users. We define the MVP, we go in the market, we test the models, and we define that one solution which is the most applicable and which has a high acceptability. And once we are convinced that that is the solution which should be, which should be scaled to, then we help you, scale it in the market, and we work together to implement it for your customers, end customers. And then eventually, basically what happens is, so you have started with an idea, you've thought of an innovative solution, you have a team in place which will talk about the impediments and will tell you whether the solution will actually be acceptable in the market. Once that happens, you co-execute, and obviously you cooperate, which means you scale it to the market. It reduces the risk, number one, and number two, it increases the speed to value, and number three, this acceptability is extremely high in this delivery model. With this, I think here are some examples of optimizing the core where we have done it for Rockwell Automation. We've brought about very high productivity benefits for our customer, more than 60%. If you want the details of it, please connect with us later, and we'll provide that. Unlocking the legacy, we had for Hertz, we have done this. The rating engine is that we created for them, and unleashing the digital, American Airlines, I have already explained to you. And with this, I am almost at the end of the session. Krishna, if you could please put the poll and put the questions for the customers, and then we can start the video.
Yeah, Rupal, thanks. So here we go with the first poll.
Maybe you could move to the second one now.
Yeah, both the polls are completed.
Great. So now that both the polls are completed, I would just like to quickly run you through the 2 videos which I have selected for you, and give you some idea about the optimizing the core, unleashing that we have done for our customers. That's number 1. The second video is about the Ignite platform and how we help our customers to be successful using the Ignite quality platform. The first video comes here. It's the next gen ADM video.
IBM is helping clients around the world in this journey to the future of application services.
Krishna, you might want to show the next video now.
Sure, Dharma. Thanks, Rupal, for those insights. Good to. Hello. Can you hear me, Rupal?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So, Rupal, thank you so much for those insights. And I have received few questions over here, if you can help with the response. Firstly, could you please elaborate on the concept of shift left?
Sure. So, shift left is something which has been brought in by the by Gartner, and what they essentially say is that you whatever it's basically applicable for application support, and what they say is that whenever a ticket comes in, you enable the first line itself to resolve the problem by themselves. So let's say if what's the flow? The flow is typically a ticket comes in, a severity is logged in, either it is severity 1, 2, or 3. The level is defined, it is L1, L2, and L3, and depending on the kind of ticket, it goes to the respective people to solve it. Now, what he says is, do not allow the ticket to go to the L3 level at all. Try to resolve the ticket upfront. So, for example, if you have a user ID password setup kind of an issue, a user says that, okay, my password is, I'm not able to log in, I've forgotten my password, so please reset it for me. Now, typically in a traditional model, what happens is there is a ticket which is raised, it goes to the L3 team, the L3 team goes into the system, updates the password at the backend, and then connects back to the end user saying that your password is resolved. Now, in the new age model, you put a RPA in place. The moment an email is sent like this, the robot understands that this is a user password issue. It scans through the email, it understands the issue, and it automatically goes into the backend, resolves the problem, sends the email to the user saying that your password has been set up. So you're shifting the issue from the L3 team to actually L1 team, or in fact, much before. You're just asking the robot to resolve it. This is what is called as a shift left, shifting the problem resolution from the L3 team to the L1, and in fact, enabling the end users to resolve it by themselves. This is called a shift left, and this is the concept which which Gartner had come up initially, and it allows you to basically optimize on AMS through the digital workforce.
Thank you, Rupal, for those insights again. So here one query from Firdaus. He wants to know what kind of support you gave to Rockville Automation. I don't know whether you will like to take it online or offline. Please respond to that.
Yeah, Firdaus, I will connect back with you separately. So I'm assuming Krishna, you would have contacts of Firdaus, and then I'll connect back to him with the
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, we can connect offline for this.
Yeah.
Secondly, what is Ignite? Is it a tool or a framework? Does it come at a cost or is this open source? Is it cloud compatible?
Yeah. Just before that, Firdaus, basically Rockwell is all about doing AMS in an automated way. So we had looked at their current AMS and we had transformed it and we had brought in a lot of automation to bring in very high productivity. That's what the case is all about. So it's a optimize the core case study. I'll share the details with you later. Yeah. So Krishna, on the second question on Ignite, Ignite is actually a framework, but this framework uses open source technology and also some of the state-of-art IBM Watson capability and CTD capability to give an end-to-end quality solution to our customer. Okay, and while we are using open source technologies, but it's a licensed product that we provide, and it is essentially based on the three principles of test less, bring higher coverage, number two automation, and number three analytics on defects. Yeah.
Thanks again, Rupal, for those insights. Dharma, can you help me spot any hands? Like, is there any question? Like, I can't see any question over here.
No, Krishna.
Okay. So maybe Rupal, if you can just share your last thoughts, like your final thoughts on today's webinar, key takeaways. What message should we take home today?
Sure. Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all the participants for attending. Basically, I think it's extremely important that we look into the zone that we are in. Are we in optimizing the core? Are we in unlocking the legacy? Which zone that you are currently today? And move towards the next zone. Try to move towards cloud-based technologies. Try to use, more and more towards Kubernetes, use of microservices, maybe shift towards technology like Red Hat or OpenShift, which allows you to have a hybrid model and do a proper load balancing. Look into all those things because at the end of the day, it will help you improve your efficiency. It will help you improve your resilience, and speed to market will also get improved. Try to do extreme automation in application support services because that is the way forward. The whole idea is to reduce the cost of AMS and use that effort towards innovation and modernization. Currently, the IT cost, it is 70-30, which means 70% of your effort goes towards AMS and 30% goes towards application development. Actually, this needs to be reversed. In fact, less than 30% should be AMS and more than 70% should be towards innovation, digitization, application development, and modernization. And finally, the last thing is try to converge on AM and AD, which means try to have a common team, try to have a T-based structure. Your AMS team should be capable of actually doing your application development as well. If you have a T-shaped structure and if you have a squad-based delivery, you'll be able to achieve that. Have a COE concept probably you can bring in, where AMS is anyways going through the virtual digital workforce, but your team is more and more involved towards doing change requests, which will help you move towards innovation and digitization. Yep, that's about it.
Yeah, thanks.
And I would like to
for that enlightening. Yeah.
One last word. I have given my phone number and email ID. If anybody has any specific questions on any of the content that I picked up, please please feel free to connect with me, and I'll be more than happy to support you and answer all your questions.
That's great. Thank you, Rupal, for those enlightening insights. And with that, let's wrap it here today. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Dharma, I hope I'm not missing out on any question over here.
Yeah.
We have covered all?
Yes, Krishna.
Okay, thanks. So once you log off, a window will open to capture your feedback. Please fill in the feedback form in as detailed manner as possible. And for any query or feedback, you can reach out to me at krishna.mukherjee@timesgroup.com. With that, thank you again for joining the Economic Times live webinar powered by IBM. Goodbye.